Jay here for Stretford Paddock. This is the Paper Talk. As you can see, we're in the studio. We are live. So get involved in the chat and the comments. Going to be talking about all the latest Manchester United news, all the latest Manchester United transfer news, and also some transfer news at other clubs as well. Because it does kind of affect Manchester United. It always affects us when our rivals buy players and spend a lot of money on players. It also affects us when our rivals buy players that we have been linked with. So we're going to get involved in that. We're going to get into all that stuff. So make sure you are getting involved in the chat and the comments and hit that like button. Should we talk about Elliot Anderson then? So we've had the here we go from Romano. We've had Ornstein. Oh, I think he's probably the most reliable journalist out there right now. And he says City agreed to sign Anderson from Nottingham Forest in a deal worth 116 million quid. Fee guaranteed with no add-ons. City record transfer for 23-year-old midfielder set for medical in New York on Friday before signing long-term contract. Now, there was a bit of intrigue with this, wasn't there? Because this was sort of announced yesterday afternoon or yesterday evening that City had put another bid in. Then it was like that City and Forest had come to an agreement. Then it was touted as it being 130 million. And then it was, actually, no, it's 116 million and there's no add-ons, which is what Ornstein's saying there. And I believe him. As I said, he's very reliable. I don't think he'd have got his numbers wrong. So it's obviously a huge amount of money. I was saying to the lads a minute ago, like, look, I would have had Elliot Anderson at Manchester United. I think most Manchester United fans would have. He's a very good player. I can understand why City have got him. And there's no point in being daft about him, pretending, you know, well, he's rubbish. But there's almost like a bit of relief that they spent that much money on him, because United would never have been in that conversation. We know we can't go out and spend 116 million quid or anything like that on one player. We're balking at spending 85 million quid on Mercedes Fernandez. Now, I know he's a different type of player, but Manchester United need to buy several players in this window. And we're not going to be able to do that if we spend 116 million quid on one player. We were speaking to Chris Wheeler from the Mail today, and he was saying, like, United might end up buying someone like a Fernandez and Ederson and then a cheaper midfielder. It might not be two 80 million quid midfielders and a 60 million or a 35 million one. Sorry. It might be an 80 million one or a 70 million one, 60 million one, a 35 million one. Sorry, get me maths right. And a 25, 30 million one. So the idea that United could spend 160 million quid on one midfielder was so almost non-existent. City have got a good player. United won't be getting him. We aren't getting him because obviously he's got to say. But I think we need to sort our own house out and look at the targets we've got and who we are going to get and not be too disappointed that we can't get Elliot Anderson. He'll do well at Manchester City. We all know that. But I don't know. There's a part of me that feels like, look, this is a very good player. Very good all-round midfielder. 116 million quid, though, does feel a lot. It does. It does feel a lot. And I suppose you'll look back and you'll go, okay, if he wins trophies there, if he wins the title there, if he's there for 10 years, it'll be money well spent. But we'll have to wait and see. Plus, a lot of people are pointing out here, I've seen a few people mentioning this, about the charges, like, what's going on with these charges? And some people like trying to connect the dots and going, like, Newcastle kind of sold him, or their argument about selling him to Nottingham Forest was to comply with FFP. And then see you've got all these charges hanging over there that are able to go and spend 116 million quid to get him from Forest. How is that fair or whatever? Listen, I'm not expecting anything with these charges anytime soon. I think it's almost become like a rainbow-coloured unicorn, which is something that doesn't exist in terms of them ever getting punished for it. So I'm not really going to worry about that too much. Anderson's got to say, it's money that we were never going to spend, and I think we can move on from it. And there's kind of a bit of almost relief that they spent that much. Because if they spent 80 million quid on him, you'd be going, why weren't United in for him? Why didn't we do that? Why didn't we try and sort of get involved in that kind of bid? But 116 million is far more than we were willing or able to pay. I'm going to get into some other stuff as well, but let's get into some of the comments. BMW Racing 1974 says, looks like City are going to get off with their 115, as there is no way Anderson will be going to them without a guarantee they aren't getting deducted. Sorry, Evan Soul says, most I can stomach for Anderson fee if it were United would have been 100 mil, but realistically, he's an 80 million pound player. Max Santa Notch in the chat as well, just morning. Casper MB says, we spent 200 million on forwards. Why can't we spend on a midfielder or on midfield? I don't understand. I thought we would have spent around that on our midfield. I thought we might have ended up going around the similar fees or the similar sort of overall price of what we paid in our attack last season for our midfield this season. Doesn't feel like we're going to. Doesn't feel like we're going to spend quite as much. We'll have to wait and see. But yeah, I'm a bit surprised. I thought with Champions League football, with the extra revenue that's going to bring in, some of the sales we're going to do. Obviously, we've got rid of Rasmus Højlund. There's talk of Onana going out. I think that might be loan, though, to be fair. I don't think you're going to get much for him. Maybe Manuel Ugarte, maybe Marcus Rashford. Could we not generate maybe 70, 80 million quid from those sales, plus the Champions League revenue? Does that not give you the opportunity to spend a similar amount as what you spent last season on attackers, on midfielders this summer? Doesn't seem like it. We need to see those 115 charges against City followed through, says Jacoya Trot. Van Dutch says, why are we reporting on other clubs? Because it affects United. City improving affects United. City buying a player that we were linked with affects United. Because, look, we've just finished third behind Manchester City, who are in second. Like, it's obvious that that's a club that we're looking at and a team that you're looking at going, we need to get better than them. We need to finish above them next season. It is an absolute travesty that we haven't finished above Manchester City since Sir Alex Ferguson retired. That is something that we need to fix. We need to be winning titles, obviously, but I can't be doing with City finishing above us every year. It's horrible. It's like the opposite of when I was a kid. Let's talk about Bruno Guimarães. This is a player that we were linked with loosely, weren't we, for about a month. Back in like January or February, whenever it was, I can't remember. It didn't feel like it had many legs, to be fair. Now, Romano has said here that Arsenal made a formal approach in the last 24 hours for Bruno Guimarães. Plan to try and open talks for 55 million, was immediately rejected by Newcastle. Newcastle want to keep Bruno and told Arsenal they won't sell for that fee. He's having a good World Cup, and Bruno Guimarães. Very, very excited player. I get why Arsenal are interested in him. I think he'd do a great job for them. I think would he operate in the same role as sort of as Odegaard? He's a bit more of an 8 than a 10. Odegaard's a bit more of a 10 in it. Would you play him alongside maybe Declan Rice? I know Miles Lewis-Skelly's played there. Martin Zubimendi's played there. I think he'd fit in anywhere in that team, and I think he'd improve him. I think that'd be a really good signing for them. I think going out and getting a player of that quality when you've just won a title would be a big statement and would improve their team and maybe edge them a bit closer towards that Champions League win that they're desperate for. So we'll see what happens, but 55 million, I get why Newcastle are, don't be silly. However, how old is Guimarães? He's not that young, is he? I mean, he's not old, but what is he? Let me just have a quick look because I'm just going to get it completely wrong. He's 28, so he's not going to have much of a sell-on fee. So whatever you're paying for him, that's probably going to be, money that you're losing. If you can say buying a player is losing money. Keep your eye on that one. I'm not going to be too gutted from a United point of view about the fact that we didn't get him because I don't think we're really in for him. I am a little bit concerned that two of our rivals, if that deal happens, and at the minute it's only in the early stages, are going to have bought two of the best midfielders in the league. The two teams that finished above us will have improved. Now, you could argue City have lost Pep Guardiola, their best ever manager, so have they improved overall? Maybe, maybe not. But certainly in terms of the squad, adding Elliot Anderson is an improvement on the squad. I know they lost Bernardo Silva, but I still think they're on a net positive. And if Arsenal get Bruno Guimarães, I think that's a step forward for them. Let me know what you think. Are you bothered about any of this? Bruno G is 28. Sorry, yeah, a few people telling me the age of him. A full name Huggy. A Rice Bruno G midfield is a scary thought. I think you're right there. I think it is he adds a bit of physicality as well, Bruno Guimarães. He's got a little bit of everything on. He's good on the ball, but he's a strong physical player as well. This is an interesting one. Let's talk about Sandro Tonali at Spurs, right? So this is Craig Hope, who's one of the Newcastle reporters who covers the club and has sort of decent connections at the club. So he says, exclusive, Newcastle rebuff second Tottenham approach for Sandro Tonali. Spurs did not improve on initial offer, but asked Newcastle to reconsider. Swiftly not back. Right, I've been following football since the 80s. I'm very old. And I've been doing this for years. Going back to full-time Devil days in like 2012. I can't remember ever seeing this happen before. And let me know if it has. Where a club have put a bid in, it's been rejected, and then the club have gone back and not improved the bid, but said, oh, go on. Come on, don't be like that. Please. Like, listen, right, I know that's not the money you wanted, but just think about it a bit more. Help us out. That's ridiculous. On what planet were Newcastle going to reject that bid and then reconsider the same bid and go, all right then, do you know what? Because it's you. Because you're persistent. Go on, I will go out with you. No. Like, it's so dumb. I've never seen anything like that. The closest thing I can think to that, we were talking about this upstairs, was, remember when Arsenal bid for Luis Suarez, 40 million? and someone told Arsenal that they had to go above 40 million to get him. That was his buyout clause. So Arsenal bid 40 million and £1, and Liverpool were like, no, he hasn't got a buyout clause for that. That's insane. We're not doing it. It's that kind of thing. But even though it was only £1, it was an improved offer. That what Spurs have done isn't an improved offer. It's just bizarre. Really, really strange. Let me know what you think. Skittles says, morning, Jay. Sorry I'm late. Don't worry about that. Tiger Claw says, would you like a cup of tea, father? Oh, go on. Jay hasn't seen the movie Obsession, says see Joe James John. I actually have. I went to the cinema to watch it. I get your point, though. Joey says, I'd prefer 2 quality players than to stockpile with Xerxes, Ugarte type signings. Edison fee should be used as a top-up for quality players. Yeah, we'll see what happens with United. I'm not quite at panic stations yet. It's still only June. We have still sort of done a deal already with Edison. So I don't think it's like, oh my God, what are United doing? This is it. It's a disaster. If we sat here in August and we hadn't signed anyone else, then I will say that. Let's talk about Buade, who is getting a lot of attention during this World Cup and also was getting it before it. This is from the Mirror. It says Liverpool hijack. Just Liverpool hijack, okay. Liverpool could stun United and Arsenal this summer, with the Reds now said to hold a firm interest in £60 million target Ayoub Buade. The teenage midfielder has shone for Morocco, and Arsenal is stood to have held talks about submitting a bid to land the talented star. I thought he was going to Arsenal. I thought that was going to happen. Arsenal, if they get him, are doing bits, aren't they? They get him and Bruno Guimarães. I mean, at the minute, they haven't got either of them, so let's not get carried away. But if they do get those players in, then you've got to give him credit, because that is like a massive statement, and you're improving a team that's just won the title. And look, that's the way to do it. Improve when you're strong. Now, you could argue, well, look at Liverpool last season. They bought a load of players in the summer. Florian Wirtz, Alexander Isak, Kerkez, Frimpong, and went backwards almost. I get it. It's not always a winning formula to buy, spend a load of money on players. But when you look at who Arsenal are being linked with, I think it makes sense to me. Let me know what you think. Get involved in the chat and the comments. Heaven Soul says 69 million now. WTF, this transfer window is just an absolute pee-take. Yeah, it's getting excessive, isn't it? But this is where we're at, man. Clubs are just spending huge amounts of money. Let's talk about Nmecha. So, Felix Nmecha, Manchester United, maintains contact with Dortmund star. City, Liverpool and Real are also interested. He's attracting interest from several top European clubs, and United, among others, is pushing ahead with their transfer efforts despite his long-term contract with Dortmund. So you can see here, it says Felix Nmecha proves his qualities not only in the Bundesliga but also at the World Cup. Strong performances in the first 2 group games of the German team, including a goal against Curacao and a brilliant assist for the decisive 2-1 win by Dennis Undav against the Ivory Coast, and increasingly bringing the midfield star of Dortmund into the focus of top European clubs. Like, a lot of people have been raving about this lad, haven't they? Look, I've only seen what I've seen in the World Cup, and he's looked, very good, and a goal and assist in 3 games can't, be ignored. 25 years old, so he's not a kid, is he? He's, as it says there, on a bit of a long-term contract with Dortmund. Some people might look at it and go, Dortmund, our batting average there isn't great. Mkhitaryan, Shinji Kagawa, Jadon Sancho. But that doesn't mean you can't ever do a deal with them. There are a few sort of weird aspects of his past, aren't there? Because he's made controversial social media posts, which have been considered homophobic in the past. So I don't know if that bothers the club. I don't know if that's anything to look at. Who was it we were linked with once? And it was like, he upset people. I can't remember. There was talk one that we were in for a player, and he'd done something on socials where people go, oh, you don't want to get him. So maybe it does have a sort of an effect on Manchester United's sort of opinion on him. I don't know. In terms of quality of players, obviously quality player. I do worry about the fact that he's got on a long-term contract. I do worry about the fact that you feel as though there's a bidding war or something could happen there because other clubs are looking at him. So we'll have to just keep an eye on that one. I don't know is the honest answer. Arnautovic, thank you, Notch. Yeah, it was Arnautovic when we were linked with him, and he said controversial. I think he said racist things on social media, or he'd been accused. I don't want to get it wrong because we haven't got a legal team to deal with that, but he'd been accused of doing certain things that the club and fans weren't enamoured of, and that was one of the reasons touted as why we didn't go for him. Just have a look what everyone's saying. Forward Sakaman says Kagawa was class, but it felt like the right player at the wrong time. I get that. I did like Shinji Kagawa. And I think had we had more of Sir Alex Ferguson, because I think he was here for a season with Fergie money and then it was Moyes, who just didn't know what to do with him, then maybe it would have been a different story. Let's talk about Andre Onana. So he's going to Trabzonspor. We've got it here from Simon Stone in the BBC. We could have picked about 10 different journalists who are covering this one. Makes sense. He's going back on loan. We can't get a fee for him, which is slightly annoying, but we don't want him back at Manchester United because he ain't going to play, and I don't think he should. So going out on loan, he's had a decent spell there at Trabzonspor. There's talk as well of, I think, Ali Bayindir at Besiktas. I think that might be a permanent deal. So it looks like those two goalkeepers could be going. And then we've been linked with one or two others, haven't we? We've been linked with Sam Johnston. We've been linked with Caldalo. And also, it looks like Radik Vitek, who arguably could be the best person to be number 2 to Senna Lomans, is going to leave United, unfortunately. So bit of a goalkeeping merry-go-round going on at the minute. As always, we will keep you posted. I think Andre Onana will just be looked back on as one of those signings that just didn't work out, really, did he? If we're going to be honest. At least he won an FA Cup, though. Wasn't all bad. Let's talk about Andy Elanga. This is a funny one, this. So, last night, Sweden qualified for the next round of the World Cup with a draw against Japan. But at the end, Andy Elanga was acting as though they'd been knocked out because he got man of the match, to be fair, Andy Elanga. He played very well, player of the match, as it's called to him now. But at the end, he was gutted. But it turned out that I think he didn't realise that they'd gone through. You can see there the footage of him looking absolutely devastated. But you're through, don't worry about it. And then Graham Potter tried to downplay it and say, oh, he didn't really know, or it wasn't, he was thinking about something else. I like Andy Elanga. It's good to see him doing well. I think he had a bit of a tough time at United, didn't he, towards the end when he was getting thrown in, when his confidence deserted him. But I always remember that time against Brentford where we were 4-0 down and Brentford were counter-attacking. The ball went out of play and he ran and got it and threw it to him dead quickly to help them counter-attack against Manchester United when we were already 4-0 down. It was so bizarre. So sometimes maybe he's not fully aware of what's going on. Should we say that? So maybe there was a situation there, but give him his flowers. He got player of the match and Sweden are through to the knockout stages. So it's good to see a Carrington graduate doing well for his country. Going to be back later on today. We've got the brew. Me and Joseph at 4 o'clock this afternoon. Make sure you check out that one. Also, as well, we've got other videos going on. I think there's a Steve video with Joe. He's had a chat with Joe. Steve living his best life in LA. So we're going to be chatting to him. All that good stuff as well. We've been speaking to journalists as well. So go and check that out on the channel. Make sure, if you're not doing so as well, you're checking out the merchandise. There's a link in the description for that. Help support the channel and it's top quality stuff. I've been Jay Moy. This has been the Paper Talk. Thanks for watching.